Theo Martin was known for his vast and impressive empire. The owner of an incalculable fortune, amassed over years with brilliant strategies and an impeccable instinct for business, he always displayed impeccable tailoring and a calculated posture that intimidated even the most powerful. Behind this impeccable facade, however, was a man who seemed to carry the weight of the world on his shoulders. He had everything money could buy, or so the headlines in business magazines insisted. But inside him, hidden under layers of success and ostentation, there was a deep emptiness, a feeling of incompleteness that not even the greatest luxuries, extravagant parties, or applause from the corporate world could fill. It was on an icy winter's night in Paris that he met Maya Simon. The setting was a lavish charity event attended by society's elite, where Maya, a young social worker, was struggling to raise desperately needed funds to save an orphanage that was about to close its doors. Maya was nothing like the people who often crossed Theo's path. She didn't have the artificial shine of expensive jewelry or the calculated air of someone looking to impress. Her gestures were authentic, devoid of pretension, and although her speech was firm and determined, her eyes were marked by an undeniable weariness. The kind of weariness of someone who carries the burden of other people's suffering without ever giving up the fight. It was a stark contrast to his surroundings, which were full of superficial conversations and excessive ostentation. Theo watched her for a long time, intrigued by the figure who seemed so out of place in the setting, but at the same time so intensely alive. Maya, with passion evident in her voice, was explaining the critical situation of the orphanage to a group of investors who, despite listening, clearly showed no genuine interest. Perhaps it was the raw sincerity in her words, or the way she seemed completely oblivious to the glamour and luxury that surrounded her. But something about her caught Theo's attention like never before. He, accustomed to a life of cold transactions and exchanges, felt unexpectedly touched by her determination and the urgency of her cause. He knew right then and there that he had never met anyone like Maya. When the party came to an end and the guests began to leave, Theo made an impulsive decision, something rare for him. He approached Maya and surprised her with an unexpected proposal. He would finance the orphanage, covering all the costs necessary for it to continue running. However, there was one condition. In return, Maya would have to work for him for 3 months, not as a social worker, but as his personal consultant on a new philanthropic project he claimed to be developing, or so he claimed at the time. If you're enjoying this story so far, make sure you're subscribed to our channel, because the next ones are going to be even more exciting, and you can't miss them. So let's keep going. Maya was indignant at the offer. Without hesitating, she immediately refused. "I'm not a bargaining chip," she said, looking him straight in the eye with a courage and firmness that few people dared to display in front of Theo Martin. Her direct response left him surprised and in a way amazed. But fate, capricious as ever, put her in a position where she had no other choice. When all her final attempts to save the orphanage had failed, and the doors of the institution were about to close, Maya realized that she had to swallow her pride and accept the offer. Even though she was reluctant, she knew that the children couldn't pay the price for her refusal. So she decided to accept the deal, unaware that this would be the start of a journey that would change both their lives forever. Theo took Maya to his chalet in the Swiss Alps, a secluded retreat that he considered ideal for working on the much-talked-about philanthropic project. The place was stunning, with huge windows offering panoramic views of the snow-capped mountains, as if the world there was untouched by any problems. The interiors of the chalet were decorated with the most expensive and sophisticated things: fine wooden furniture, luxurious oriental carpets, and works of art that looked like they had just come out of museums. Every detail of the place exuded wealth and perfection, but for Maya, it all seemed oppressive, almost suffocating. She felt that all this ostentation was just another way for Theo to hide who he really was. At first, the two could barely understand each other. Theo was cold, distant, and always seemed to maintain an invisible barrier around him. He wasn't used to being questioned, let alone challenged, and this made conversations with Maya tense and truncated. He cared little for her ideas for the project, dismissing them with indifference or ignoring them completely. Instead, he seemed more interested in impressing her with extravagant helicopter trips, lavish candlelit dinners, and long conversations that, in reality, led nowhere. Maya, on the other hand, made no effort to hide her frustration at his behavior. "Are you doing this to ease your conscience?" she asked in a direct tone, facing him fearlessly. "Because if you are, you don't need to involve me. I'm not part of a game you want to play." Theo didn't answer. He just looked away, something unusual for someone used to always being in control. But silently, those words resonated inside him in a way he couldn't ignore. For the first time in a long time, someone was seeing him for real, without the aura of power and success that he cultivated so much. Maya saw him in a way that no one else did, not as a powerful and influential man, but as someone lost, trying to fill in gaps that no amount of money could fill. As the weeks went by, Maya began to realize that there were cracks in Theo's impeccable facade. He wasn't just an arrogant, controlling man, as she had initially thought. There was something deeper, something broken and hidden behind his haughty posture and cold gaze. Little by little, she began to notice small gestures, moments when he seemed more vulnerable. It was as if the real Theo was trying to emerge, but was constantly stifled by his own insecurity and fear of showing weakness. One night, while a snowstorm kept them trapped in the chalet, Theo finally let down his defenses and revealed a part of his story that he never told anyone. Sitting by the fire, he spoke, his voice lower than usual, about his difficult childhood. He told how he had lost his parents at a very young age, and how he had been forced to grow up too fast, learning to hide his pain behind his achievements and success. "I thought that if I had enough money, status, power, all that would disappear," he confessed, looking lost, as if he were reliving those painful memories. Maya listened in silence, feeling the weight of every word he said. She didn't try to console him with ready-made phrases or cliches about overcoming. Instead, she just stayed by his side, letting him feel that he wasn't alone at that moment. It was one of the few times in his life when Theo felt seen, not for what he had, but for what he was. At that moment, Theo realized that Maya wasn't like the other people who passed through his life. She wanted nothing from him. She wasn't looking for money, favors, or status. She just wanted him to be true to himself and to the world around him. But it wasn't all smooth sailing. When Theo began to realize that he had feelings for Maya, he made a crucial mistake. He tried to turn these feelings into yet another transaction, as he was used to doing with everything in life. He thought he could buy her love in the same way he bought the respect and admiration of everyone around him. He organized a lavish dinner at his mansion in Paris, an event designed down to the smallest detail to impress her. During the dinner, he surprised her with $1 million contract, guaranteeing the expansion of the orphanage and the resources to keep it running for many years to come. "This solves all your problems, Maya. You don't have to worry about anything anymore," he said with a confident smile, as if he had found the perfect solution. Maya was in shock. For a few seconds, she didn't know what to say, but then anger took over. "Do you think that's what I want, Theo?" she asked, her voice shaking with indignation. "That I'm here for money? That everything I care about can be solved with a piece of paper and a signature?" The discussion that followed was intense, like never before. Maya, for the first time, lost her composure. Her voice was charged with emotion as she said, "The problem isn't what you have, Theo. It's what you can't see. Love, connection, purpose. These things can't be bought." They need to be built, but you've never learned that. Theo tried to justify himself, but Maya wouldn't listen. Feeling deeply hurt and disappointed, she left that very night, leaving him alone in his gigantic mansion, surrounded by luxuries that, at that moment, seemed emptier than ever. Maya's estrangement was the final blow for Theo. For the first time, he was forced to face his own loneliness. Without Maya around, the emptiness he had always tried to ignore became unbearable, almost overwhelming. He realized that all the possessions he had, all the achievements he had accumulated, meant nothing if he wasn't able to connect with what really mattered. It was then that he made a decision that would change everything. He sold one of his most luxurious properties, a gigantic yacht that symbolized his former life of excess, and used the money to finance a project that Maya had always dreamed of: the construction of a community center for underprivileged children and young people. The center was not only a gift for Maya, but a symbol of something he was finally beginning to understand. He didn't tell Maya anything. He didn't do it to impress her or to win her back, but because for the first time, he understood what she was trying to teach him: that the most important things in life are not for sale. Months later, on a quiet spring afternoon, Maya received an unexpected letter. The handwriting on the envelope was elegant but discreet, and the sender was Theo. For a moment she hesitated, feeling a whirlwind of emotions as she held that piece of paper. When she finally opened the letter, she realized that it wasn't an attempt at justification or a desperate apology, as she had feared it might be. Instead, the words were simple, honest, and to the point. Theo thanked Maya for making him see what really mattered in life, something he had spent years ignoring. He didn't try to make amends with grand gestures or elaborate explanations, but there was a tone of humility and sincerity that touched her deeply. Driven by curiosity and a feeling she still couldn't define, Maya decided to visit him. After a few hours on the road, she met Theo again at the chalet in the Alps. But the place was now completely different. The space, which had once seemed like a monument to ostentation and luxury, had been transformed into a shelter for children rescued from situations of risk and abandonment. The previously cold walls now had colorful drawings made by the children, and the atmosphere was filled with laughter and animated voices running through the corridors. Theo, who once seemed the picture of control and rigidity, was there in the middle of it all, talking to the children and helping to organize a game in the snow. He looked completely different, not just in appearance, but in the way he moved and interacted. There was something new about him, a lightness, a humanity that Maya had never seen before. When he saw her coming, he paused for a moment, as if surprised, but then walked towards her with a shy smile. "So," he asked, with a mixture of nervousness and hope in his voice, "do you think I'm on the right track?" Maya looked at him for a few seconds, assessing not only the place, but also the man in front of her. Finally, she smiled back, a calm but meaningful smile. "That's something you have to decide for yourself, Theo," she replied, with the same firmness he already knew. "But from what I can see, I think so." The two of them sat outside, on one of the benches that overlooked the breathtaking view of the snow-capped mountains, now illuminated by the soft gold of the sunset. They didn't talk much. There was no need. There were no promises to be made, no grandiose declarations or rehearsed speeches, just each other's presence, sharing that serene moment under the vast alpine sky. Theo looked at the horizon, thoughtful, but for the first time in a long time, he no longer seemed lost. Maya, by his side, sensed that something important had changed, not just in him, but in the way he saw the world. And as the sun hid behind the mountains, they stood there in silence, as if that moment was a testament to everything they had learned about themselves, about life, and about the transformative power of genuine connections. This new path that Theo chose to follow was neither perfect nor guaranteed, But he finally understood that the value of the journey was not in reaching some grand destination, but in walking with purpose. And Maya, without having to say anything, knew that he had started down the right path. Maya felt her heart warm right there beside Theo. A mixture of love and peace enveloped them. And looking deeply into each other's eyes, they kissed for the first time. And the love that had previously seemed impossible between them appeared unexpectedly, as if it had been waiting for that very moment. I hope you enjoyed this fascinating story. So subscribe to our channel and take the opportunity to watch the video on your screen now. See you next time.